Welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at data types, what they are, why we use them, and two forms of iteration. So our key learning objectives are understand why different data types are used, be able to understand why we'd use definite iteration, what that looks like, and being able to sort of spot it, and the same for indefinite iteration. So, really quickly, I just want to recap what the definition of a variable is. So it's something that we are assigning a value to. We can store data in it within a computer program. When I say the term variable, that is all I am referring to. Okay, so what makes a variable different to a data type? Well, basically, a data type specifies what values a variable will take. So often, and this is how it's written in Python, is str, which stands for string. So it's string in Visual Basic, integer or int, depending on what language you're using, and we also have float. In Visual Basic, you probably use something called double. Okay, so here I have an example from last sort of session when we looked at the egg delivery. You can see here, actually, we are specifying the data type here. So here is the variable. So we literally have a container that will store a value. And basically, we're just saying whatever the user inputs into sort of eggs, we want to look at it as a number. So we could enter 16 or something like that. Here's the example in Visual Basic. Why would we specify the data type? What is the point? Surely we can just use this value as 16. I know it's a number. You will know it's a number. Well, actually, it's kind of going back to what we looked at a little while ago with algorithms. Computers are just following instructions. They can't infer, they can't sort of see, they can't take a guess and know that this is numbers. Well, to computers, the only thing that they understand is 1 or 0. Okay, so why would we bother using them? Well, I've touched on this a little bit, but we need to be explicit with what we want to do with the data that we're using. So, for example, if I ran this in Python, okay, this is going to output 10. These are still both using the number 5, but actually, because I have these quotation marks around that character, or the number 5, it means the program is going to be looking at it as a character. So it thinks that you want to join these two values. Okay, this doesn't actually mean addition within the program because you can't add two characters. This actually means join, where this one, because they're both integers, they don't have quotation marks, this means add them. Okay, so this one is meaning join and this one is meaning addition. It's a similar thing with this. So let's say we have a variable called name. Well, actually, if we put quotation marks around it, the program thinks that you just want to output these values. Where this one could be referring to print out sort of whatever the value name is storing. So I could put Tony, something like that. So basically, the value of name is Tony. This would output the value inside this variable, where this one is referring to these characters only. So basically, data types are really, really helpful because the computer can't actually understand what we want to do specifically. And we need to let the computer know, actually, is it that you want me to join these two characters, or would you like me to treat them as a number and perform addition on them? Okay, would you like to refer to this variable and the value inside of it, or do you want me to print out sort of this string of characters? Okay, now we're going to look at iteration. So we have two different types. We have definite and indefinite, or sometimes referred to as count controlled and condition controlled. So definite iteration will always repeat a set amount of times. So if I said put your hands above your head 5 times. You would know when the stop value is. Well, it's after you have completed that 5 times. Where indefinite iteration would be more like me asking you to raise your hands above your head until you get tired. Well, actually, for you, I don't know how many times that's going to take before you say I'm tired. For me, I might be older and I get tired quicker. So the end point is the same. It's until you get tired. However, for you, it might be 100 times. For me, it might only be 10 times. So that's why we call it condition controlled or indefinite, because it happens an indefinite amount of times. Okay, so having a look at indefinite iteration, basically, we will know how many times we want a specific loop to repeat. So it might be something like you want to print a range of values, and you know when you want your loop to sort of finish. Okay, so here's my example in Python. So for I in range, this is the stop value. Okay, so this will print out 0. I will always start at 0 unless specified otherwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it stops when it reaches that value 5. Okay, so here's my example in VB.NET. You'll notice it's a little bit different. So we are saying from I, we're specifying the start value and the stop value. So all of the values between 0 to 4, print I. So all I is doing is keeping count of how many times we have iterated through that loop. This is the output. Just going to talk you through a little trace table, so feel free to stop the video now and give it a go yourself. Or equally, you can wait and we can run through it together in just a moment. So what we have here is we have a list. This is written in pseudocode. And remember, we haven't actually got to this point, but you should know already, arrays index at 0 unless specified otherwise. So we have colours. So if I said colours position 0, well, it's going to refer to this value in the list. Okay, so we said I is going to start at 0. You can see that here. So I'm going to place a 0 here. And the first time we run through this loop, we're going to output whatever colours is and position whatever I is. I is currently 0, so colours position 0 is yellow. We are going to output yellow. Okay, then we're going to run through it again. I is now 1 because we're going through another iteration. We're going to output colours position whatever I is. I is 1, so we're going to output red. Okay, now we're going to run through it another time. I is now 2, so we are going to output blue. And the final time, 2, 3, is colours position I. I is now 3, and we are going to output pink. So indefinite iteration is particularly useful if we have a finite n, so we can always see that actually this list is always going to be this length. So we can make use of definite iteration here, as we can use I as a bit of a placeholder and loop through every element in this list. Okay, so we might want to use indefinite iteration when we actually don't know how many times we want the loop to repeat. We might know the condition where we want it to stop, but we don't actually know when. So like I said earlier, if I said to you, raise your hands above your head until you get tired, well, that's different for everyone. However, everyone is going to stop when they reach the same point. So we can see this typically with while loops or sometimes repeat until loops. It's also really useful for user validation. So if you are asking them to enter a value greater than 0, well, actually some people might not do that. And we can use a while loop here to ask them to re-enter until the value is greater than 0 or something like that. So typically you can see this, and I've got an example with Flappy Bird. So the objective here is not to hit the green pipe with the bird. So if you're particularly good at this game, well, actually you might be able to carry on and on and on for a long time. Myself, I'm not very good, so I only be able to last a small amount of time. Okay, so actually the condition is the same. When the bird meets the pipe, then obviously it's game over. However, for different people, it will have a different length of time. And you can see this in many games. Here's a Python example. Whilst game over does not equal false, continue game. Obviously, this is going to give us an indefinite loop because game over is never set to false in this instance, but this is how a lot of games will work. Whilst the value of game over is not set to true, so for example, taking you back to the Flappy Bird example, we might have written in the code, when bird is touching the green pipe, then set game over to true. Then we would obviously exit this while loop. An example in VB.NET. Okay, so you can see a couple of differences here. Mainly, we have a different symbol to represent not equal to, and we also have our end while. It's really important that with Python you are aware we don't actually write end while, just show it by making sure everything we want in our while loop is indented, so in line with this print section here. Okay, so I've got a question on the screen. I'd like you to pause the video now and just see if you could create a simple while loop to ask the user to enter an amount greater than 0. You can always go back in this video, have a little look at the examples, and then see if you can give it a go. I'm just going to give you the answer for this one. So we have something called while amount is less than 1, meaning 0 or -1 or 0.5, whatever. We're going to print, please enter an amount greater than 0. And then we're going to allow the user to input a value and assign that an amount. It's then going to check if amount is greater than 0, and it's going to carry on until it isn't. Okay, so I want you to pause the video now. You can give this question a good read and go through it, see if you can answer as much as you can. So you can do this in Python or you can do it in VB.NET. I'm going to run through them both, again with the mark scheme. So I'll run through both coding answers first and then I'll run through both of the mark schemes. So you can just watch the section of the video that is most appropriate to you. Okay, so I've got my IDE next to me just because it makes it easier to sort of run through the question as I normally would, and you can see me type it sort of live. Obviously, in your exam, you will be writing this, but I thought it was just sort of quicker and clearer probably than trying to read my writing. Okay, so there's a couple of things here that I would probably just think about. So my program has to charge a person £8 per ticket, and also people under 18 and people over 65 can receive a discount of 2. So already I'm thinking I will need a variable called age. I will also need one called ticket because that will store the price of the user's age and the value of the ticket. Okay, so I'm just going to do it bullet point by bullet point. That is my strategy here. When I answer these questions, it's really important you have a think, what bullet points can I definitely do? Even if you feel like you can't do the whole question, it's really important you at least give a couple of the bullet points a go. Again, there are always program design marks up for grabs, so you might even get a few marks just for suitable variable names. So, my example in Python, get the user to enter their age. So, we have our age variable here, and all I'm going to do is a simple input statement that says, please enter your age. Okay, ask the user to re-enter their age until the value is over 100 or less than 1. calculate the total charge by charging £8, reducing the total charge by £2 if the age is less than 18 or greater than 65, output the total cost of the ticket. So let's go for our sort of third bullet point, just so we can set the value of the ticket. So by default, the ticket is £8. Ask the user to re-enter their age if the value is over 100 or less than 1. So what I'm going to do is, okay, so the reason we need a while loop here is because I actually don't know how many times the user is going to get it wrong. They might get it wrong absolutely no times and always enter their age as more than 1 or less than 100. However, they might enter the value 101 20 times. I don't know. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a while loop. So we're going to say whilst age is less than 1 or age is greater than 100, we're going to ask the user to enter their age. Okay, so because we're actually checking this as a number, we need to assign a data type to this variable. So I'm going to set it as int. So whilst age is less than 1 or 100. So what we could do here is we could copy this and place this inside our while loop. So the reason I've done that is because I want to give them an opportunity to re-enter their age. Okay, so let's try the next one. So we want to calculate the total charge by charging £8, which is what we've done. Reducing the total charge by £2 if the age is less than 18 or greater than 65. So if is coming out of my mouth already. So if age is less than 18 or age is... Okay, so basically if you're over 65, meaning if you're 66, 67 or you're 17, you're going to knock £2 off the ticket. So, okay, so we are going to take whatever the ticket is and we're going to say the new value of ticket is whatever the ticket is minus 2. Okay, then we're going to print, so output the total cost of the ticket. So we're going to say something like the cost of your ticket is, and then join with our variable ticket. And actually, looking at this code, I can actually make this a little bit more streamlined. Well, I've asked for the age twice, when actually I could just make this while loop execute in the first instance by setting age as a value either greater than 100 or less than 1. So if I set age to 0, and if we run this program, please enter your age. Let's test it out. If I enter 17, I should get the value 6. There we go. And let's try it again in the other way around. Let's try 18. The cost of your ticket is 8. So that is working. Okay, so I'm about to go through the VE.NET answer for this. So first of all, I'm going to look at this question. Okay, so get the user to enter their age and also £8 per ticket. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off just declaring some variables because even if I'm unsure, I may still get marks for suitable variable names. So I'm going to type dim age as integer. Okay, get the user to re-enter their age if the value is greater than 100 or less than 1. So actually, I don't know if I'm going to, or the user is going to get this wrong 100 times, or maybe they'll enter it correct the first time. Maybe they'll really struggle with it, or maybe they'll get it wrong a couple of times. We do not know. So I'm going to create a while loop here. And I'm going to say whilst age is less than 1 or age is greater than 100, I'm going to say console.writeLine, please enter age. And then I'm going to work on the next bullet point. So calculate the charge by charging £8. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the value of ticket as 8 already up here. So the default is 8, and all I want to do is check if the user has entered an age less than 18 or greater than 65. So we're going to have an if statement here, and I'm just going to say if age is less than 18 or age is greater than 65, ticket is whatever ticket is minus 2. Output the total cost of the ticket. Well, first of all, I'm just going to end my while loop. Okay, and I have just noticed something, and this is why it's really important to check bullet point by bullet point. I've actually missed the first bullet point, get the user to enter their age. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the console.read line up here. And that's going to allow the user to enter their age and store it in the value, in the variable age. Okay, so once this is all run through, actually I want to output console.writeLine. The cost of your ticket is, and then, okay, I'm just going to make things a little bit more streamlined because we've actually going to get into a problem here. So whilst age is less than 1 or age is greater than 100, well, we're going to say please enter age, but actually this is going to give me an infinite loop. And this is a really common thing students do. We have not reassigned the value of age anywhere. We've only asked for it once, and we basically said if what they've entered is less than 1 or greater than 100, keep repeating please enter age. Well, actually, we want to allow the user to re-enter the value. So console.readLine. And what I can actually do is instead of asking for this twice, I could actually set the value of age as 0 in the first place. The reason I've done that is because I'm only asking for the age here. So if I enter age as 0 to start with, well, it's always going to prompt and ask the user for their age. Okay, so just the final thing before I think, oh, I'm going to run my program, it must be finished. I'm just going to run through the bullet points, and this is what you should do also. So, have I done this? Get the user to enter their age. Yes, I have. We have the prompt, and we also have the variable. I've also declared the variable. Good. Ask the user to re-enter their age if the value is over 100 or less than 1. Yes, I have also done that. Calculate the total charge by charging £8. Reduce the total charge by 2 if it is greater than 65 or less than. Okay, fabulous. Output the total cost of the ticket. I've done that. Okay, I have ended both my whiles, ended both my ifs, declared both my variables, suitable data types. Okay, I am happy with that. Okay, please enter age. So it should show me 6 if I enter 17. The cost of your ticket is 6. Absolutely fabulous. So that's working. Let's see where we get the marks. Okay, so I'm going to let you just pause the video now and see if you think you can mark your own, and then we're going to run through my example and see if we can mark it together. Okay, so I'm going to do the Python one first. Okay, so suitable variable names throughout. A, so that's mark A. B for using selection. Yes, we did use an if statement here. C for using indefinite iteration. So this is our while loop. Even if these things did not work, so I just declared a couple of variables and I put the words while and if and just gave it a go, that's 3 marks, even without it working. D for allowing input for user's age. Where did I do that? Absolutely fabulous. appropriate Boolean condition, so greater than 65 or less than 1, so it's this value here. This is mark E. F for appropriate method to reduce the total by £2, which I have done. G for final total in a logical place, well yes, after I've gone through the while loop. And H for a fully working solution. Well, we've tested this and we know it is fully working. Okay, I'm going to go through the VB.NET example now. So we have A, B, C, just for program design. So these things do not have to work. So it is always worth giving every single question a go. Mark A for suitable variable names. So you would get marks just for putting a few variables on the exam paper. B for using selection. We did use a selection statement. C for indefinite iteration. That's our while loop. D for allowing the user input. E for correct Boolean condition. Fabulous. F is for appropriate method to reduce the total by £2. You can see we've done that here. G for the output of in a logical place, which the logical place actually is after we have completed this while loop, because no good outputting the total before we've checked all of these things. For a fully working solution, we have tested this, it works, so I get that final mark. Give yourself a score out of 8. And okay, thanks for joining me in this video. I will hope to see you in the next one.